Zekthor the Unyielding stood in the observation deck of Station Omega-7, staring at the contract display with something he had never felt before: reluctance. For 300 years, he had been the galaxy's most feared assassin. His forearms could wield weapons with impossible precision. His exoskeleton could withstand plasma fire. His reputation alone had ended wars before they started. The contract glowing before him was simple: eliminate a human diplomat who was getting too close to exposing a corrupt trade consortium. The payment was enormous, enough to fund a small colony. It should have been an easy decision. Zekthor had accepted hundreds of similar contracts without hesitation. But something had changed during the Krenth campaign last year. He had eliminated a target, completed his mission perfectly, and then watched through his scope as the target's child found the body. The scream that followed haunted Zekthor's dreams ever since. He was a professional killer, not a monster. Or at least, that was what he told himself. For the first time in 3 centuries, Zekthor declined a contract. He sent a message to his handler: "I am retiring. Effective immediately. Do not contact me again." The handler's response was predictable: "You don't retire from this life. You know too much. They will come for you." Zekthor deleted the message and powered down his weapon systems. If they came for him, so be it. He was tired. Tired of the killing, tired of the fear he inspired, tired of being a tool for the powerful to eliminate their problems. He wanted something different, though he had no idea what that might be. An unexpected encounter. Zekthor chose Earth as his hiding place. It was an odd choice for someone of his reputation. Earth was a backwater planet, barely 50 years into galactic society, but that was exactly why it was perfect. Earth's security systems were primitive. Their databases were not connected to the main galactic networks. And humans, for all the technology, their strange qualities, had a reputation for not asking too many questions about someone's past. He settled in a small city called Portland in the North American sector. He rented a modest apartment under a false identity, claiming to be a Krenthian trader studying human commerce. His landlord, an elderly human woman named Margaret, accepted this explanation without question and welcomed him warmly. "You're my first alien tenant," she said cheerfully. "I hope you like it here. The neighborhood is very quiet." Quiet was exactly what Zekthor needed. He spent his first weeks on Earth simply existing without purpose. He had been a weapon for so long that he did not know how to be anything else. He would sit in his apartment, staring at his 4 hands, wondering what peaceful beings did with their time. One afternoon, Zekthor smelled something extraordinary drifting through his window. It was sweet and warm, unlike anything in his experience. He followed the scent downstairs to find Margaret pulling something from her oven. "Chocolate chip cookies," she explained, noticing his interest. "Would you like to try one? I don't know if your species can eat human food, but you're welcome to test it." Zekthor had eaten ration packs and synthetic nutrients for 300 years. The cookie Margaret offered him was still warm, the chocolate melting slightly. He took a cautious bite and his world shifted. The combination of sweet and slightly bitter, the texture of soft dough and melted chocolate, the warmth that seemed to spread through his entire body, it was a revelation. "This is incredible," Zekthor said, his voice filled with genuine wonder. "You created this?" Margaret laughed. "Well, I followed a recipe, but yes, I baked them. Cooking is my hobby. I used to run a small bakery before I retired." Zekthor found himself asking, "Could you teach me?" The student becomes a baker. Margaret was delighted to have a student. She did not know that the creature asking for baking lessons had killed over 10,000 beings across the galaxy. She saw only a lonely alien who wanted to learn something new. They started with simple recipes. Zekthor's 4 arms, which had wielded plasma blades with deadly grace, now struggled to crack eggs without destroying them. His strength, which had crushed combat armor, now threatened to overmix batter into paste, His precision timing, which had coordinated complex assassinations, now focused on oven temperatures and baking times. Gentle, Margaret would say, guiding his hands. Baking is about patience and care. You can't force it. Zekthor discovered that baking required a different kind of discipline than assassination. Both demanded precision, but where killing required speed and efficiency, baking required patience and attention to subtle changes. He had to learn to feel the texture of dough, to smell when bread was perfectly done, to understand that each ingredient played a necessary role. His first attempts were disasters, cookies that could be used as weapons, bread dense enough to stop bullets, cakes that collapsed into craters. But Margaret never lost patience. She would taste each failure, identify what went wrong, and encourage him to try again. "You're improving," she said after his 20th attempt at banana bread. "This one is actually edible. The texture is still a bit off, but the flavor is good." Zekthor felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Pride in creation rather than destruction. He had built something with his hands, something meant to nourish rather than harm. A dangerous discovery. 3 months into his retirement, Zekthor's past caught up with him. He was returning from the market with baking supplies when he noticed surveillance drones following him. They were sophisticated, military-grade equipment that did not belong in a civilian area. His old instincts kicked in immediately. He mapped escape routes, identified potential weapons, calculated the odds of fighting his way out. But then he stopped himself. Fighting would only confirm his identity and put innocent humans at risk. Instead, he continued home calmly, pretending not to notice the drones. That evening, there was a knock on his door. Zekthor opened it to find 3 figures in tactical armor. They were from his old organization, sent to ensure his permanent retirement. "Zekthor the Unyielding," the leader said. "You were warned. You know too much to be allowed to live peacefully." Zekthor did not reach for weapons he no longer carried. Instead, he said, "I have fresh cookies in the kitchen. They are not perfect, but they are adequate. Would you like some before you attempt to kill me?" The assassins stared at him, confused. This was not the response they had expected from a legend. "I'm serious," Zekthor continued. "I just mastered the double chocolate recipe. It would be a shame to let them go to waste." The absurdity of the situation created a moment of hesitation. In that moment, Margaret's voice called up from downstairs. "Zekthor, are you okay up there? I thought I heard voices." The lead assassin's weapon lowered slightly. "You have human friends?" "A teacher," Zekthor replied. "She is elderly and kind. If you kill me here, she will find the body. She will be traumatized. Is that acceptable to you?" For professional killers, the question struck a nerve. They killed targets, not innocents. The leader gestured to his team, and they lowered their weapons. 1 week, he said. "You have 1 week to disappear completely. If we can find you again, we finish this. Understood?" Zekthor nodded. The assassins left as silently as they had come. The decision to stay. Zekthor should have fled immediately. He should have stolen a ship and vanished into the outer colonies, where even his organization could not reach. But the thought of leaving made his chest ache in an unfamiliar way. He found himself knocking on Margaret's door at midnight. "Zekthor?" She opened the door in her bathrobe, concerned. "What's wrong?" "I need to tell you the truth," he said, "about who I am." They sat in her kitchen while Zekthor explained everything. His 3 centuries as an assassin. The thousands of lives he had taken. The organization that wanted him dead. Margaret listened without interruption, her expression unreadable. When he finished, there was a long silence. Then Margaret said, "That's quite a past you have." "I understand if you want me to leave," Zekthor said. "I am a danger to everyone around me." Margaret stood and pulled out her baking supplies. "Well, before you make any dramatic decisions, we need to finish teaching you how to make proper sourdough. You still haven't mastered the starter." Zekthor stared at her. "Did you hear what I said? I am a killer. I have destroyed lives across the galaxy." "I heard you," Margaret replied calmly, measuring flour. "But that was who you were. Who do you want to be now?" The question hit Zekthor like a physical blow. In 300 years, no one had ever asked him what he wanted. He had been a weapon, a tool, a legend of death. But now, standing in a small kitchen on a backwater planet, he realized he wanted something different. "I want to bake," he said quietly. I want to create instead of destroy. I want to learn all your recipes and maybe develop some of my own. I want to feed people instead of killing them. Margaret smiled and handed him a mixing bowl. Then that's who you'll be. Now, let's work on that sourdough starter. It takes patience, which I think you're finally learning. Building a new life. The week deadline came and went. Zector did not run. Instead, he opened a small bakery in Marwood's neighborhood. He called it the Second Chance Cafe, though most humans did not understand the double meaning. Word spread quickly about the alien baker. People came initially out of curiosity, but they returned for the food. Zector's assassin precision translated beautifully into baking consistency. His 4 arms allowed him to multitask in ways human bakers envied. His enhanced senses could detect the exact moment bread reached perfect doneness. But more than technique, Zector poured something new into his baking: hope. Each loaf of bread, each pastry, each cookie was an act of creation that balanced his past destruction. Customers felt it somehow, though they could not explain it. The food from the Second Chance Cafe simply tasted better, warmer, more satisfying. A young human named Sarah became his first employee. She was a culinary school dropout, struggling to find her place in the world. Zector saw something of himself in her uncertainty. "Why did you leave culinary school?" he asked, while teaching her his technique for laminating croissant dough. "I wasn't good enough," Sarah said quietly. "The instructor said I lacked discipline and precision." Zector's mandibles clicked in what humans had learned was his version of a smile. Discipline can be learned. Precision can be practiced. But passion, the desire to create, that is something you either have or you don't. You have it. I can taste it in everything you make. Sarah blinked back tears. Really, Zector confirmed. "Now, let me show you the secret to perfect croissant layers. It is all about patience and temperature control." The confrontation. 6 months after opening the cafe, the assassins returned. This time, there were 5 of them, and they came during business hours. The cafe was full of customers when they walked in, weapons hidden, but obvious to Zekvar's trained eye. The lead assassin, the same one from before, approached the counter. "You were supposed to disappear." "I did," Zector replied calmly, continuing to frost a cake. "Zector the Unyielding is gone. I am simply Zekfor now, a baker." "That's not how this works," the assassin said. "You're a liability. Orders are orders." A customer, an elderly man reading a newspaper, looked up. "Is there a problem here?" "No problem," Zector said quickly. "These are old friends. Please, gentlemen, let me make you something. I have a new recipe I am testing. Triple chocolate brownies with a ganache center." He moved to the kitchen, and the assassins followed, as he knew they would. Once away from civilian eyes, the leader drew his weapon. "This ends now," he said. Zector set down a tray of brownies. "Before you kill me, answer one question. Why do you do this work?" The assassin hesitated. "I'm a weapon. It's what I was made for." "I thought the same thing for 300 years, Zector said. "But I was wrong. We are not what we were made for. We are what we choose to be. I choose to be a baker." He picked up a brownie and took a bite. "These are quite good. The ganache needed another minute to set, but the flavor balance is excellent. I am proud of them." One of the other assassins, younger than the rest, spoke up. "You're really retired? You're really just baking now?" "I am," Zector confirmed, "and I am happier than I have ever been. Each morning I wake knowing that I will create things that bring joy. People come to my cafe not because they fear me, but because they enjoy what I make. Children ask for my cookies. Elderly humans tell me my bread reminds them of their childhood. I am part of a community. I matter in a positive way." The young assassin lowered his weapon. "I didn't know that was possible for beings like us." "It is possible for anyone who chooses it," Zector said. "The question is, what do you choose?" The lead assassin stood silent for a long moment. Then he holstered his weapon. "If anyone asks, we completed the contract. You're dead, officially. But Zekthor the Unyielding died 6 months ago. We have no interest in killing a baker." He picked up one of the brownies, took a bite, and his eyes widened. "These are exceptional." "Thank you," Zekthor said. "Would you like me to box some up for you?" The assassins left with a dozen brownies and a new understanding. Zekthor returned to the counter, where Sarah was managing the worried customers. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Everything is perfect," Zekthor replied. "Now we need to start the evening bread baking. The sourdough should be ready for shaping." 1 year after opening the Second Chance Cafe, Zekthor realized he was not just running a bakery. He was creating something more profound, a sanctuary for lost souls seeking purpose. Sarah was not the only damaged person who found their way to his door. There was Marcus, a former soldier with PTSD who could not hold a job because loud noises sent him into panic attacks. Zekthor taught him to bake bread in the quiet early morning hours, showing him that his military precision could create beauty instead of destruction. There was Li Wei, a teenage runaway who tried to steal pastries from the display case. Instead of calling the police, Zekthor hired her and taught her that dignity came from honest work. There was Father Tom, a retired priest struggling with his loss of purpose, who found new meaning decorating cakes for celebrations. Each person brought their own pain, their own past, their own reasons for needing a second chance. Zekthor understood them all, because he had been where they were, lost, purposeless, defined by a past they wanted to escape. Margaret watched this transformation with quiet pride. One evening, as they prepared bread for the next day, she said, "You've built something special here, Zekthor. This cafe is more than a business. It's a community." "I did not plan this," Zekthor admitted, his forearms working dough with practiced ease. "I simply wanted to create instead of destroy. But these people keep appearing, and I keep seeing myself in them." "That's what makes you a good teacher," Margaret said. "You understand their struggle because you lived it. You show them that change is possible because you are living proof." The challenge. News of the alien baker spread beyond Portland. Food critics visited and wrote glowing reviews. Culinary students came to study his techniques, but with fame came unexpected complications. One day, a Corinthian business consortium representative arrived at the cafe. Corinthians were known across the galaxy as ruthless capitalists who monetized everything they touched. "Zekthor the Baker," the representative said, emphasizing the new title with obvious amusement. "I represent investors interested in expanding your brand. We want to open the Second Chance Cafe locations across Earth and eventually throughout the galaxy. You would become wealthy beyond measure." Zekthor continued decorating a wedding cake, his concentration unwavering. "I am not interested in expansion." The representative smiled. "Everyone has a price. Name yours." "I do not have a price," Zekthor replied. "This cafe serves a specific purpose for a specific community. Expansion would compromise that purpose." "Then you're a fool," the representative said. "We'll simply copy your recipes and open our own chain. There's no legal protection for baked goods." Zekthor finally looked up from his work. The representative saw something flicker in the alien's eyes, a brief glimpse of the legendary assassin beneath the baker's apron. The Corinthian stepped back instinctively. "You may copy my recipes," Zekthor said calmly, "but you cannot copy what makes this cafe special. The people who work here, the care we put into every item, the purpose behind every loaf, these cannot be replicated by a corporation seeking profit. Good luck with your chain." The representative left, and true to his word, a chain of cafes called Second Chance Bakeries opened across Earth within 6 months. They used similar recipes and branding. Their marketing emphasized the authentic alien experience. They were clean, efficient, and perfectly corporate. They also failed spectacularly within a year. Customers found the food acceptable, but soulless. The corporate training could not replicate the passion and purpose that characterized Zekthor's original cafe. One by one, the chain locations closed. Teaching the teacher. As Zekthor's reputation grew, he attracted attention from an unexpected source. The Galactic Culinary Institute, the most prestigious cooking school in known space. The dean, a Vistarian named Quelmesh, visited Portland personally. "Zekthor, your transformation from assassin to baker has become legendary," Quelmesh said. "I am here to offer you a position as master instructor at the Institute. You would teach advanced baking techniques to the galaxy's most promising culinary students. For a moment, Zekthor was tempted. The opportunity to influence culinary arts across the galaxy, to teach on a grand scale, was appealing. But then he looked around his small cafe, at Marcus managing the morning bread rush, at Li Wei creating elaborate cake decorations, at Sarah developing new recipes with confidence he had helped build. I am honored, Zekthor said, but my work here is not finished. These people need me, and truthfully, I need them. They remind me daily why I chose this path. Quelmish studied the bustling cafe. What if the Institute came to you? We could establish a satellite program here in Portland. Students would come to learn not just baking technique, but the philosophy behind your work, the concept of cooking as redemption, of creation as healing. Zekthor's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. That would be acceptable, but only if my current staff are included as instructors. They each have valuable lessons to teach about second chances and finding purpose. Thus began the Second Chance Culinary Program. Students from across the galaxy came to Portland to study under a former assassin and his staff of broken humans who had learned to create beauty from their pain. The student who changed everything. Among the program's first students was a young Corinthian named Vexali. Unlike most of his profit-obsessed species, Vex was quiet and thoughtful. He approached cooking with reverence, rather than commercial interest. Zekthor took special interest in the young Corinthian, perhaps seeing something of his younger self in the student's intensity. During a late-night baking session, Vex finally revealed why he'd come to Earth. My father was one of your targets, Vex said quietly, hands shaking as he shaped bread dough. 200 years ago, you killed him during a corporate war. Zekthor's forearms stopped moving. The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of refrigeration units. I remember, he said finally. A Corinthian executive, quick and clean. He never knew I was there. I was 30 years old, Vex continued. By Corinthian standards, still a child. His death destroyed my family financially and emotionally. I have spent my entire life wondering about the being who took him away. And now you have found me, Zekthor said. What do you intend to do? Vex looked up, tears streaming down his chitinous face. I intended to kill you. I planned it for decades. I tracked you to Earth. I enrolled in your program to get close to you. But then I started learning from you. I saw what you built here, who you help, how you have changed. And now I am confused because the monster I imagined does not match the teacher before me. Zekthor set down his tools and faced his student fully. I cannot undo what I did to your father or to the thousands of others I killed. Their deaths are permanent. The pain I caused is real, but I can try to balance the scales. Every person I help heal, every life I improve through teaching, every moment of joy my food creates. These are my attempts at redemption. They do not erase my past, but they create a different future. Is it enough? This. Can redemption really balance that much death? I do not know, Zekthor admitted. I hope so. But even if it cannot, I must try. What else can I do? I cannot bring back the dead, but I can help the living. Your father is gone, and I am truly sorry for the pain his loss caused. If you need to kill me to find peace, I understand. But know that if you do, you will also destroy the second chances of everyone who depends on this cafe. Vex stood silently for several minutes. Then he picked up his bread dough and resumed shaping it. I need time to think. Take all the time you need, Zekthor said. Forgiveness and understanding. Vex continued the program, but his relationship with Zekthor changed. The young Corinthian watched his teacher carefully, studying not just baking techniques, but the philosophy behind every action. He saw how Zekthor treated each person with dignity, how he patiently corrected mistakes without judgment, how he celebrated small victories and encouraged their failures. One day, during a complex pastry lesson, Vex asked, "Why do you do this? Teaching, I mean. You could live quietly, bake for yourself, stay hidden. Why expose yourself by helping others?" Zekthor considered the question while demonstrating lamination technique. Because isolation is another form of death. I spent 300 years alone, emotionally if not physically. Every kill separated me further from feeling anything beyond the satisfaction of mission completion. When I started bathing, I felt something I had not experienced in centuries: connection. The food I create connects me to those who eat it. Teaching connects me to students. This community connects me to life itself. Without that connection, I am just waiting to die. But aren't you afraid? Vex pressed. Your past could destroy everything you built. Students like me could expose you, or worse. Every day, Zekthor admitted. But fee is the price of caring about something. When I was an assassin, I feared nothing because I cared about nothing. Now I fear losing this cafe, disappointing my students, failing those who depend on me. But that fear proves I am alive in a way I never was before. Vex absorbed this wisdom silently. Near the end of the program, he requested a private meeting with Zekthor. I've made my decision, Vex said. I'm not going to kill you. Zekthor nodded slowly. I appreciate that. But I'm also not going to forgive you, Vex continued. I can't. You took my father from me, and that pain doesn't disappear because you've changed. However, I can acknowledge that you're different now. The being who killed my father is gone. The teacher who showed me a new path is here. Those are two different individuals sharing the same body. That is fair, Zekthor said. I do not expect forgiveness. I expect to carry my guilt until I cease functioning. But I hope I can earn your respect, if not your forgiveness. Vex extended his hand in the human gesture Zekthor had adopted. You already have. The cafe's legacy. 5 years after opening the Second Chance Cafe, Zekthor stood in his kitchen surrounded by former students who had returned for a reunion. Vex was there, now running his own successful cafe on his homeworld that employed struggling Corinthians seeking purpose beyond profit. Sarah had published a cookbook about healing through cooking. Marcus trained other veterans in culinary therapy programs. Li Wei directed a foundation helping at-risk youth find careers in food service. Margaret, now quite elderly, sat in a place of honor. I'm proud of you, she told Zekthor. When you first asked me to teach you to bake, I never imagined it would lead to all this. Neither did I, Zekthor admitted. I simply wanted to create one thing, one loaf of bread that would balance the destruction I had caused. But I learned that creation is not about balance. It's about transformation. Every person I teach, every life I touch creates ripples that spread far beyond this small cafe. The reunion celebration filled the cafe with laughter and joy. Former students shared stories of how Zekthor's lessons had changed their lives. Parents thanked him for saving their children. Community members celebrated the transformation of their neighborhood. Late that night, after everyone had left, Zekthor cleaned his kitchen in peaceful silence. His forearms moved through familiar routines, wiping counters, organizing tools, preparing starter for tomorrow's bread. 300 years ago, these same arms had wielded death. Now they wielded life. A knock on the cafe door interrupted his thoughts. Zekthor opened it to find a young assassin, barely out of training, standing nervously in the darkness. Zekthor the Unyielding? The assassin asked. Just Zekthor now, he replied gently. Are you here to kill me? I'm supposed to, the young assassin said. But I've read about what you're doing here, about how you changed. Is it real? Can beings like us really have a different life? Zekthor opened the door wider. Come in. I just finished a batch of cookies. Let me make you some tea and we can talk about second chances. The assassin entered hesitantly. As Zekthor prepared tea and arranged cookies on a plate, he felt the familiar warmth of purpose spread through him. Another lost soul seeking redemption. Another chance to prove that change was possible. What's your name? Zekthor asked, setting the tea and cookies between them. Kiravex, the assassin said quietly. I've only completed 12 contracts, but I already hate what I'm becoming. 12 is 12 too many, Zekthor said. But it's also 12 fewer than I had completed at your age. The question is not how many you've killed, but what you choose to do next. Would you like to learn to bake? Kiravex looked at the cookies, at the warm kitchen, at the former legend who had walked away from death. I don't know the first thing about baking. Neither did I, Zekthor said with his mandible click smile. But I had an excellent teacher, and now I can pass those lessons forward, do you say? Kirivix picked up a cookie, tasted it, and felt something shift inside. Okay, teach me. The final lesson. 10 years after retiring, Zekthor received news that his former organization had been dismantled. The galactic authorities had finally accumulated enough evidence to prosecute its leaders. Former assassins were offered amnesty in exchange for testimony. Zekthor traveled to the galactic capital to testify. The courtroom was packed with beings whose lives had been destroyed by the organization's actions. Families of victims, survivors, others seeking justice. When Zekthor took the stand, a murmur rippled through the crowd. The legendary assassin, the monster of their nightmares, stood before them in a simple baker's tunic, his four hands folded respectfully. The prosecutor asked, "Do you regret your actions during your time with the organization?" "Every single one," Zekthor replied. "Not a day passes where I do not remember the lives I took, the families I destroyed, the potential I erased. My regret is a permanent weight I carry." "Then why should we believe your transformation is genuine?" the prosecutor pressed. "How do we know this is not another deception?" Zekthor looked directly at the gallery of survivors and victims' families. "You should not believe me. Words are meaningless compared to actions. I have spent 10 years trying to create life instead of taking it, trying to heal instead of harm. But those 10 years cannot erase 300 years of death. I do not ask for forgiveness. I do not ask for redemption. I ask only that you judge me by what I am doing now, not just what I did then." A woman stood in the gallery. "You killed my brother," she said, her voice shaking. "During the Kremp campaign. He was a diplomat, not a soldier. He had 2 children. Zekthor met her eyes. "I remember. It was the contract that made me finally question what I had become. His death and his child's grief haunted me into retirement. I am deeply, truly sorry. If I could undo it, I would." "Sorry doesn't bring him back," the woman said. "No," Zekthor agreed, "nothing can. But if there's anything I can do to help you or his children, I will do it. It will not balance the scales, but it is all I can offer." The woman sat down, tears streaming. The testimony continued for hours. Zekthor answered every question honestly, holding nothing back. He provided information that led to dozens of additional arrests. He exposed corruption networks spanning multiple systems. When it ended, the judge made an unexpected announcement. "Zekthor, your testimony has been invaluable. In recognition of your cooperation and your documented efforts at redemption, this court grants you full amnesty. You are free to return to your life on Earth." Zekthor bowed. "Thank you, Your Honor. But I have one request." "What is it?" "The compensation fund for victims' families. I would like to contribute all my savings to it. It is not much, but it is everything I have." The courtroom fell silent. The judge nodded slowly. "Your contribution is accepted and noted." Coming home. When Zekthor returned to Portland, the entire neighborhood turned out to welcome him. His staff had kept the cafe running during his absence, and business had actually increased as news of his testimony spread. "You're a hero now," Sarah told him, "standing up to your old organization, helping bring them down. People are calling you courageous." "I am not a hero," Zekthor said firmly. "Heroes save lives. I took them. I am simply a reformed villain, trying to create something good from the ruins of my past." Margaret, now quite frail, disagreed. "You're wrong, dear. Heroes aren't perfect people who never made mistakes. Heroes are people who recognize their mistakes and spend the rest of their lives trying to make things right. That's exactly what you're doing." The Second Chance Cafe continued to thrive. More students came to learn from Zekthor. More lost souls found purpose in his kitchen. The ripples of his transformation spread further with each passing year. On the 10th anniversary of the cafe's opening, the mayor of Portland declared it a historical landmark. "This cafe represents humanity's greatest strength," the mayor said during the ceremony. "Our belief that anyone can change, that second chances matter, that redemption is always possible." Zekthor stood beside Margaret during the ceremony. She was in a wheelchair now, her health failing, but her spirit remained strong. "You did it," she whispered to him. "You built something beautiful from something terrible." "We did it," Zekthor corrected. You taught me that creation could heal. You gave me my first second chance when you didn't have to. Everything that came after started with your kindness. Margaret smiled. Then my life's work is complete. I helped a soul find peace. She passed away that night, peacefully in her sleep. The funeral was enormous. The entire neighborhood attended, along with former students from around the galaxy. Zekthor delivered the eulogy, his voice breaking as he spoke about the elderly human he had seen past his murderous history to the person he could become. Margaret taught me the most important lesson I ever learned, Zekthor said, that we are not defined by our worst moments, but by how we respond to them. She looked at a 300-year-old assassin and saw a baker. She was right. She was always right. The legacy continues. 15 years after opening the Second Chance Cafe, Zekthor was featured in a galactic documentary about transformation and redemption. The filmmaker spent months in Portland, capturing daily life at the cafe, interviewing former students, documenting the impact of Zekthor's work. The documentary's final scene showed Zekthor teaching a class of new students. Among them was a former war criminal, a reformed thief, a disgraced politician, and 3 assassins seeking a different path. Each one came with blood on their hands and hope in their hearts. Creation is harder than destruction, Zekthor told his class. Killing takes seconds, building takes years. But what we build lasts. Every loaf of bread we bake feeds someone. Every cake we decorate celebrates a moment of joy. Every cookie we make might brighten someone's difficult day. These are small acts, but small acts accumulate into significant change. He held up a simple loaf of bread, golden and perfect. This is my weapon now. Not a blade or a gun, but bread. It cannot kill, only nourish. It cannot destroy, only sustain. This is what I choose to be, a nourisher, a sustainer, a creator. What will you choose? The documentary ended with those words, and it sparked a movement across the galaxy. Rehabilitation programs adopted Zekthor's methods. Prisons established culinary training programs. Former criminals found new purposes in creation rather than destruction. Zekthor received messages from across the galaxy, from former criminals who'd found new lives, from families healed by his example, from societies rethinking their approach to justice and redemption. One message came from an unexpected source, the woman whose brother he had killed during the Kremp campaign. I've watched your documentary, she wrote. I've seen what you built. I'm still angry about my brother. I'll probably always be angry. But I'm also grateful that his death meant something, that it was the catalyst for your change, that indirectly he might have saved lives by ending yours as a killer. I don't forgive you, but I acknowledge you, and maybe that's enough. Zekthor read the message again and again. It was not forgiveness, but it was acknowledgement. It was recognition that change was possible and meaningful, even if it could not undo the past. The end of one journey, the beginning of another. 20 years after retiring from assassination, Zekthor stood in his cafe at dawn, preparing the day's first bread. His forearms moved through familiar motions, muscle memory refined through thousands of repetitions. Outside, Portland was waking up. The neighborhood that had once been struggling now thrived, partly because of the foot traffic the cafe generated. Former students ran businesses nearby. The community had transformed along with Zekthor. Sarah entered through the back door, now his business partner and master baker in her own right. Morning, Zek. I finalized the expansion plans. Are you sure about this? Zekthor nodded. The time is right. We will establish 5 new cafes, each in a different struggling neighborhood, each staffed by people seeking second chances. We will replicate not just the food, but the philosophy. It's ambitious, Sarah said, and risky. All worthwhile things are, Zekthor replied. 20 years ago, learning to crack an egg was risky for me. Now we are creating a network of second chances. It is the natural evolution. As the sun rose over Portland, casting golden light through the cafe windows, Zekthor placed his first loaves in the oven. The familiar warmth spread through the kitchen, and he felt complete. He was not just a reformed assassin or a successful baker. He was proof that change was possible, that redemption was real, that anyone could choose creation over destruction if given the chance and support. The galaxy's deadliest assassin had retired and become a baker. But more importantly, he had become a teacher, a mentor, and a symbol of hope for anyone seeking to escape their darkest past and build something beautiful in its place. And every morning, as bread rose in his ovens, Zekthor was reminded that creation was indeed harder than destruction, but it was also infinitely more rewarding.